Welcome to The Spotlight, the podcast where veterans and military spouses connect and share how their military experience has transformed their lives and their businesses. Here's your host, Bob Louthen.
Hey, this is your host, Bob Louthen, founder of the VeteranCrowd Network, the network that brings veterans and veteran-led businesses together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. And you are tuning into The Spotlight. Hey, welcome everybody. Again, this week, we're going to be talking with some veteran entrepreneurs. My guests today are Priscilla and Dan Schrubb. They're the founders of Popcorn Friday, little business out in Texas. We're going to be talking about their business today. Dan, retired United States Marine, discovered a little bit. He actually got some schooling in the Army before he transferred over. I guess you got religion. And then Priscilla, been a military spouse. Really interesting story that you guys have got. Welcome to the program. Thank you for stepping into the spotlight.
Thank you for having us.
Hey, before we kind of get into the story about the business and one of my favorite topics ever, which is popcorn, particularly when you got all the different flavors that you guys are producing. But hey, tell me about your military experience. You were in the Army and then went into the Marine Corps. Talk a little bit about that. And I also want to know what a combat cameraman really does. I got some ideas, but would love to hear about that experience.
Well, I joined the Army right out of high school because I lived in a real small town in Northeast Texas, and there wasn't much to do there, and I just had to get out. And some of my friends were joining, so I joined the infantry, served some time overseas, a deployment to Egypt, one to Korea. Then I went into the reserves after that while I was going to college. And, some things happened. And I just remember that I was a lot happier in the military. And I was like, you know what, I'm going back into the military. And I worked with Marines while I was in the Army, and I was always impressed. So I'm like, you know what, I want to be a Marine. And so I walked into the Marine Corps recruiter's office, and I knew I didn't want to be a Marine infantryman because those guys are pretty hard. And so I wanted to do something I'd enjoy because I intended to go until I retire. And there was a little known job that very small MOS, combat photographer. Specifically, as a junior Marine, I was a videographer. So I shot motion media and stuff like that, did everything from acquisition of imagery to editing and distribution. Training films all the way up a deployment with 1st Marine Division in Iraq, and then another deployment in Afghanistan with the Marine Corps Systems Command, where I actually bought the equipment that the Marines would use in the fleet. So, I've seen the whole spectrum of combat camera MOS, but it turns out that they merged with public affairs right after I retired. And if you understand the relationship between public affairs and combat camera, it's kind of like the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Redskins. We don't really like each other.
Oh, goodness.
So, but
let me ask one other just question, just out of simple curiosity. Having gone through basic in the Army and having been, in active duty and in the reserves for a while, what was your mindset going through boot camp in the Marine Corps?
I got this question a lot. People would ask, oh, which one's harder, Army or Marine Corps? And the way I answered it was, when I went through the Army, I was 18 and I was naive. So it was kind of hard. It wasn't really physically hard, but it was psychologically hard. When I went through the Marine Corps boot camp, I was 28 years old. And I kind of knew what to expect. They did challenge me physically and mentally, but I did a lot better than I thought I'd do. Most of the young kids are 18 coming straight out of high school, but I had a little bit of experience and I excelled.
for the first time they've ever been kind
Yeah.
of pushed to their limits where it wasn't the first time for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Priscilla, how did you guys meet? I'm curious where in this path that you guys stumbled across each other and met.
Well, Dan and I actually met online. It was a long time ago, and I was living in San Diego at the time, and he was stationed at El Toro. So we weren't very far from each other, but it took probably over a year for us actually to meet, and then we dated for a couple years while he was stationed at Miramar.
Mm-hmm.
And we got married there and just kept going on our path. We've been married 22 years this
You
summer.
guys have been then stationed around, so you did the military spouse role, and have you guys been on the East Coast as well as on the West Coast?
Yeah. We were in Camp Lejeune, Camp Johnson area for 3 years, and then I retired out of Quantico after 4 years.
And hence the friends in the Fredericksburg area and so forth. Okay. Yeah.
Also,
Okay.
we had the opportunity to come to Texas on recruiting duty after Dan came home from Iraq. So our son was born in Texas. He's the only Texan.
There you go. Well, congratulations. So, all right. So now let's talk about the entrepreneur's journey a little bit here. Dan, when you got out of the Marine Corps, you were actually, I think, beginning to think you were going to parlay some of that videography and picture experience into a career, but it didn't turn out that way. But tell everybody what you started out doing. Life's great. The great entrepreneurial stories, you end up starting out doing something else and winding up in a different place.
Yeah, I always knew that I wanted to kind of chart my own course, so to speak, because I had relatives that were doing it. So when I came time to think about what I wanted to do after the Marine Corps, I took a look with the help of Boots to Business, which is part of the transition assistance program. I looked at being a real estate photographer, and I bought some equipment, started doing jobs on the side while I was working on my business plan, while I was going through Boots to Business. And I realized that it was going to be a whole lot of effort for very little reward. I'd missed being with my family through deployments and stuff like that. So I didn't, want a job that would kind of separate me from my family.
How much time did you spend deployed?
In total, about a year
Mm-hmm.
between Iraq and Afghanistan. So,
and Priscilla, what were you doing at this time? You're transitioning from being military spouse to being married to a retired Marine. What was going on?
Well, I actually had spent a lot of time trying to develop myself as a professional. I knew that when he retired, I really couldn't see a path for photography. So I thought, well, I better be prepared for some opportunities for myself. So I had volunteered quite a bit at the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society. And through that experience, I was able to earn a certification to become a personal financial counselor. So that actually opened a lot of doors. And then I was also working towards finishing my bachelor's degree, even at the start of our business. So, but for the most part of his career as he was married, I was a stay-at-home mom. We have 3 children, but I was always really trying to find opportunities for personal development, professional development.
I found that the military spouses, it's a unique community in and of itself. You have to be very organized, managing the moves and a lot of things there. And actually that, in addition, we're going to talk about entrepreneurship here in a second, but I think being a military spouse has a lot to do with preparing families to be entrepreneurs, just like being a veteran. So, so how does the popcorn story start? How does Popcorn Fridays start? And where'd the name come from?
Well, it was kind of related to what I was doing previously because I was getting frustrated, and I didn't see it panning out with the real estate photography. And then,
Yeah, so I had a friend who's also transitioning. Her husband was transitioning at the same time as well, and she knew that Dan was looking for an opportunity to start a business. And we had planned to move to Texas no matter what, but she said, you should just go talk to this guy. He's a Marine. He owns a popcorn store in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And I'm sure he'll help you, just go talk to him. And I was like, Marianne, we are not going to open a popcorn store. Like, that's not what we're doing. She's like, I know, but you can just learn from him. So I swung by there one day, and I didn't really get to talk to him, but I kind of observed the store and things like that. And then I had brought the children out to Texas. And then while Dan was still at Quantico, he went and actually talked to the owner there.
Mhm. And then we developed a relationship, and then he helped us get started out here in Texas.
Not quite a franchise, but you were able to learn from the fits and starts that they'd experienced.
Yeah.
Okay, so you move out to Texas, and what happens? You start the business, right? Did you put together a business plan? Did you just start making popcorn? What how did it happen?
It was it's a journey of faith. Let me tell you, it was very difficult, and there's a lot of uncertainty. We had the hardest time trying to find a place a space for the store. And one time, during this time, I was kind of introverted, but I knew I had to start talking to people. So I started talking to everybody. And one day we were supposed to be looking at this space, and it was raining, and there was we were waiting for the gentleman to show up to show us the space. And there was this lady standing outside smoking a cigarette in the rain. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's a sign I need to talk to her. And
Okay.
she told us that the previous tenants had moved out about a couple miles just east of where we were. And I was like, I didn't think there was anything out there. So eventually the guy ended up not showing. And we went out to this place where she had said, and we saw this little place facing the road. There's about 22,000 cars a day at the time traveling past this little space, and it had a for rent sign on it. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So we called the number on the for rent sign, and they showed up, and we talked to the owners, and he liked the idea, and we shook hands. And when we were leaving, the interesting part, we were leaving the little business plaza. Priscilla said, look up at the sign of the plaza. And I looked up, and it said Faithville. So it was a testament of faith. We found this place.
Honor, duty, service. At the VeteranCrowd Network, we're focused on our next mission, bringing veterans, veteran-operated businesses, and veteran service organizations together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. That's why we are launching the VeteranCrowd Rewards Program, exclusively for our individual and corporate members. Now you can save on travel, restaurants, goods, and services from brands you trust online and at over 900,000 locations nationwide. Find out more today at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. If you are a veteran-operated business, or a VSO, consider the connections, the network, the benefits, the engagement, and success of working with other veterans again. The VeteranCrowd Network, you paid a lot of dues to join this club.
You're listening to the Spotlight on the VeteranCrowd Network. My guests are Dan and Priscilla Schrubb of Popcorn Fridays. Let's talk about that. So a little divine providence, you believe, over that. You guys, so you rent the space and you jump into making popcorn. Had you I guess from your experience with the person in Fredericksburg and Quantico, maybe you had some ideas of how to make the popcorn and what to produce. But you weren't just starting from scratch.
No, I mean, we actually, licensed and paid him to help us learn how to start the business and, the recipes. And he came out to Texas and he trained us how to do it. So, you know, um, outside of his visit, it was kind of a leap of faith as well when we were paying him and, having him come out and help us get it going. But he had a little bit of help in the development of it, but we have our own name. He's not really involved in our business
Hmm.
anymore. It was just kind of like a fee-based
You
type
hung out the
arrangement.
shingle. How did sales kick off? Did people start dropping by 22,000 cars a day?
Well, we are kind of located in a semi-rural area, so it took a little while, but because of, we have such a small community out here, it was catching people's attention. Everyone, it just really caught on by like a wildfire. Like it was just word of mouth, and we really survived and thrived in the first couple of years on word of mouth. So, you know, I would say I don't think we were as extremely successful in the first years, but we did have a lot of learning experiences,
Yeah.
throughout that process. And I consider myself more of a less risk averse.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to take things slowly. In fact, I didn't want to spend that much on our popper. I was like, let's just buy the largest small popper we can, because, I don't know if this business is really going to, be successful. But, as, we just kept growing and growing, and we had the need to hire employees. And so things just really kind of just started to escalate, and it really became a little bit more than we could handle in the beginning. So we had to hire some extra help.
And buy larger equipment.
There's a great video on your website. It tells a little bit of the story. In the meantime, you went back and finished your degree.
Yes.
So it almost took a hiatus from the business to go focus on that and then come back with your renewed skills and energy.
Yes, absolutely. The business has offered me a lot of interesting opportunities, things that, you don't really think about when you're starting a business. I think for me, it was a very foreign idea to start a business. But I've had so many great opportunities meeting people in the community, and then also using my skills and my education. I actually work part-time as well with a company doing financial counseling with military families. And I get to share these entrepreneurial experiences and lessons learned with veterans and their spouses, so that if they're considering, they have a better, maybe better foundation than I had. I think we started out pretty strong in a lot of ways, but there were other things that we could have done better. And so I love that opportunity that I have to share my knowledge with families that are considering starting businesses after service.
Dan, you mentioned in that video that you thought that military training makes people good entrepreneurs. Let's drill down on that. I mean, can you be specific about what you think you got in your military career that you can look at now and say, that's helped me be successful with my business?
Yeah, there's a lot of tangible and intangible things. Some of the intangible things are, discipline and perseverance. I mean, this business has cycles, and you have to persevere through the hard times. The planning, executing, the 5-paragraph order, all that sort of stuff. Really, having done all that sort of stuff, it really helps you to see how we were going to, what sequence we should set this business up. Because, aside from him advising us on how to do the work, it was up to me to make sure that the space was ready and the equipment showed up at the right time. And I think, especially working at Marine Corps Systems Command, I did a lot of project management type stuff, and that really helped. But there's a lot of experience that I learned in the military, and the military network. There's a network of veterans out here, and we get together as veteran business owners, and we're trying to help other veterans and other veteran business owners, develop their skills and raise them up.
We could do a whole discussion on applying the 5-paragraph op order to, to business, that literally use it and show it to my advisory board members who are not veterans. Situation, mission, execution, give the commander's intent, all of that kind of stuff. And they kind of have this aha moment, the simple things that we kind of did to stay organized in the military. Discipline, perseverance. What's the last 2 years with COVID been like? What challenges perhaps has that presented to you? And how do you think you guys have gotten through that? Maybe it's created some opportunities. Maybe it's made you adjust fire. Who knows? But what do you think?
Well, if I can speak to this a little bit, I feel that he didn't talk about adaptability. And I think that's where military spouses have great skills, and we are always looking for our resources, and we're always willing to adapt to the circumstances. Wasn't a very uncommon for us to have a change in our PCS orders, 3 weeks before the move. And so I had to adapt and switch gears. And so I think in regards to COVID, he had the more mission completion attitude, whereas I was more, I think, flexible and wanting to adapt to the circumstances. I was concerned for our employees, and I was concerned of how we were going to pay them, because we did see, a little wind down at the start of the pandemic. But, I learned something surprisingly from Al Gray, who's a retired, commandant of the Marine Corps. He said one time at the Marine Corps ball that it doesn't cost anything to think. And that really was impressive to me. And I thought, you know what, we're not just going to sit down during this time. We're going to focus on getting our website cleaned up. We're going to do what we can. We're going to review our inventory. We're going to do everything we can and use our brains during this time to see what we can do. Maybe we'll have the doors closed and we'll operate a little bit differently. But this is a good time to see how, our online store can do. And so it wasn't, but maybe, it was mid-April.
Yeah, April 10th.
At the start of the pandemic, where our daughter just said, "Mom, Dad, we kind of want to do this social media TikTok video," and we were like, I thought to myself, go ahead. I don't think a lot of kids are going to buy popcorn, but go ahead. So
her and I were working a shift at the store, and it was a Friday, as a matter of fact. And she's like, "Dad, you got to get on TikTok." And I'm like, "Okay, set it up and we'll put something together." And she did a little hasty script, and we worked on it together. And she had been on TikTok for about a year at that point, so she kind of knew about it. And she put it out there, posted it, and it started getting some views. And we were like, "Oh, this is cool." And it started getting a lot more views, and we were like, "Ooh, this is exciting." But my phone, every time we get an online sale, it'll make a little cha-ching. And the phone started going cha-ching. And I'm like, "Ooh, this is cool." And then all of a sudden it started going cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And it would do that like every 30 seconds at one point. And I'm like, "Oh no, what are we going to do?"
I got a lot of popcorn to make.
Yeah. Fortunately, a lot of the young men and women who had gone off to college that had worked for us were back in town because the colleges had closed down. So we called them up and asked them if they would help us out. And they're like, "Sure." And they stepped right in as if they never left.
We had
How much
hundreds
of the
and-
business now is online? You still have the retail location, but
Mhm.
how much of the business is online sales?
Well, at that point, it was
probably 80%.
80% online and 20%. And of course, it waned out. We lost a lot of momentum, but I'd say now it's about 60% in store, 40% online.
And corporate orders as well.
And corporate orders and stuff like that.
Corporate orders. You guys do some things to help fundraisers. Have you got sort of a charitable spin on the business?
We've done a couple things.
Well, that's interesting. The name, you want to tell them about the name?
Oh, well, the name Popcorn Friday comes from my experiences just helping very simply with the PTA at Quantico. I didn't really want to be fully involved with the PTA, but they said, well, my neighbor actually was helping in the PTA, and she's like, well, I go and do popcorn every Friday. And I was like, well, I'll take the baby with me, and I love the smell of popcorn. I can do that. And it was Popcorn Friday. And so I just thought it was a great name, and we thought it was completely relevant. So yeah. We decided to adopt that name, and a lot of people actually have memories of their own Popcorn Fridays growing up.
Yeah, it's a common fundraising term. And with some of the local schools, they're always doing fundraisers. We're involved with a couple of the high schools and some of the other elementary and middle schools mm-hmm. through fundraising and other organizations too. So, and they've been really pleased with how we've done it because we do most of the work for them.
Very good. So what's next for the business? Talk about the next 12 to 18 months. Where are you guys going?
Well, we are actually in a period of transition where we're really looking at ourselves and wondering where we want to go over the next 12 to 18 months. I am thoroughly loving what I'm doing in the financial counseling space. And so we're trying to determine how best we can utilize this experience starting a business and maybe moving into a different direction. Not sure what that looks like yet.
Okay. How do people get in touch with you?
Anyone can reach us at www.popcornfriday.com.
We'll put links to get this stuff. My final question, what is your favorite flavor?
Do you want to go?
I like theater better. I'm pretty basic. I've tried them all. They're all a little bit pretty rich after you've had them, over and over. So I think I just would go back to my basic theater better. Occasionally I like to mix it with caramel nut. So it's kind of nutty and buttery.
We have
this hungry.
Yeah, we have this flavor, salt and vinegar, and I love salt and vinegar chips. And that's my favorite flavor. And working at the store, talking to customers, which is one of my favorite things to do besides skateboarding, is I learned from a customer that when they mix it with another popular flavor we have called sea salt caramel, it's a really dynamic flavor, and it's undescribable, this flavor, and you just have to experience it. Salt and vinegar and sea salt caramel.
All right, well, we're gonna have to get some of that. Well, you've been listening to the Spotlight on the Veteran Crowd Network. Our guests have been Dan and Priscilla Schrubb of Popcorn Fridays. Really appreciate you guys stepping into the spotlight. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you
for having us. It's been fun.
You've been listening to the Spotlight on the Veteran Crowd Network. We're coming to you on Fridays, bringing you veteran entrepreneurs and leaders who are making a difference in our community. Again, I'll give a shout out to Dan and Priscilla. I'll throw an Army Bravo Zulu your way, and I'll even lob in the Semper Fi. Thanks so much for being on the program, and that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to Spotlight by Veteran Crowd. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and uploads, please visit our website at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. We'll see you next time.